Who is the most terrifying, evil and messed up murderer? Albert Fish. Killed and ate a little girl, then he sent a letter to her parents explaining how he did it. He's not a nice guy. If you're looking for more famous, Joseph Mengele is kinda hard to beat. Less famous Peter Curtin is pretty rough. Toy box killer. Kidnapped women would wake up chained to a wall, listening to a tape recording the killer made in which he described what would be happening to them over the coming weeks. Rape, torture, forced bestiality, etc. I made the mistake of reading the tape's transcript once. I was fucked up for days. UN popular opinion, but the case of the Black Dahlia is pretty fucked up. You have to be some sort of psychopath to be able to completely saw a girl in half, then dump her in the middle of a family neighborhood, and never feel guilty enough to turn yourself in. Practically live the rest of your life normally after doing such acts. After watching some of these cartel torture videos, I'd say the most depraved killer would be out there alive and unknown. Some of those sicarios have admitted to killing hundreds of people in the most horrific ways imaginable. There are many contenders for this gruesome title, but, to my mind, the murderer that exuded the most pure, unadulterated evil was Ian Brady. Well, I wouldn't say the most evil and terrifying. But the Texan lady who killed that pregnant woman, took the baby and put the umbilical cord inside her, was quite messed up. That Japanese guy who killed and ate a woman in France. He's roaming free in Japan and he even has interviews. The kidnappers, rapists, torturers and murderers of Junko Furita. Hands down the most horrific and inhuman thing ever. If you look it up, be warned, it's beyond repulsive, and reading on it caused me not only to sob but to vomit. So research at your own risk. Kyle Pan's Ram. Probably the most evil human in modern history that we know of, if you're not talking people who came into positions of great power. Karla Homolka and her boyfriend. They raped, tortured and murdered underage girls, including her own sister. They recorded it as well. You can read transcripts. I would advise against it. It's difficult, even for someone who is very into true crime. Ivan Milat. He would give rides to young tourists who were hitchhiking. He killed both men and women. He once picked up 2 females, took them into a forest at gunpoint, then stabbed one in the lower back, rendering her paralyzed. Then stabbed her friend in the lower back, paralyzing her as well. Then he raped her while her friend watched. That was something he enjoyed. He would stab you in the spine in your lower back to paralyze you. Fred and Rose West. They didn't just torture, rape and kill random people, they did it to their kids as well. Gertrude Baniszewski. She's no Dharma or Gussie, but the shit she did to Sylvia Likens would make a rat puke. Edward Gain. The man straight up butchered women and turned their body parts into furniture, house decor and clothing. He had a couch made of human skin, a coat made of faces, lamp made of skin and bones, ashtray made of a skull and a belt made of nipples. There's more, but that's a general quick rundown. Ed Kemper and the Beaver Boys. I'm really shocked Ed Kemper gets a pass in these conversations. Joseph Mengele, for sure. Did experiments, i.e., lethal torture, on twins in Nazi death camps. The Toy Box Killer. I read his tape transcript he'd play for his victims. You can find it around on the internet, but I must warn anyone who wishes to read it, for it is very disturbing. The Toolbox Killers are about as bad as it gets as far as killers go. The horror those girls had to endure hurts the heart. Well, I can't find anything about it, so I'll say it. Look up anything about Jeffrey Dahmer or Ted Bundy and sit back, relax, and be prepared to feel unrelaxed afterwards. Robert Picton. 6 convicted, 49 confessed. Pig farm in British Columbia. Samuel Little. Happy face killer, along with killing, tied and dragged one of his victims, after she died thankfully, under his semi against icy roads. That asterisk has given me nightmare fuel for years. Briley Brothers. What's crazy about them is that my mom met them on a high school or college field trip where the class got to interview inmates. I don't remember the class it was for, but she told me about one of their victims that was pregnant and they killed her, cut open her stomach and fed the fetus to a snake. How true that one is, but that's some crazy shit if it is true. Edit, a word. I'm late to the party but I gotta go with Andrei Chikatilo, aka the Red Ripper or Butcher of Rostov. Crazy ass Russian dude who killed little kids after sexually abusing them. Also ate some. Donald Henry Gaskins or Pee Wee Gaskins. Mainly because he wrote a book about his crimes and there is stuff in that book that fucked me up for weeks. 10 out of 10 don't recommend reading it. Gilles de Rais. He was one of Joan of Arc's generals. He went on to be a serial killer who killed hundreds of children and raped most of them. Pedro Lopez is also similar. He killed hundreds of women and young girls. The worst part. He is currently a free man and no one knows where he is. The most comforting theory is the police secretly tipped off the families of his victims after he was released from prison and they did the rest. If y'all don't know about the Toy Box Killer, look him up and you will be properly unsettled. He recorded videos and audio tapes as well. If they're still publicly available though. Charles Manson. How he brainwashed his family into murdering people for no reason is simply chilling. I just watched 2004's Helter Skelter last weekend and one of the girls, Susan Atkins, was referring to the victims as things and yawned after she finished testifying about killing Sharon Tate. H. Holmes. Assuming the stories are true. Close runners-up. Americans. John Wayne Gacy. Dahmer. Bundy. Green River Killer. Government leaders. Stalin, Mao, Hitler. I think the name was 56 Days in Hell or something. It was about a girl being tortured non-stop and she just gave it up and died on the spot. Those two British 10-year-old boys who kidnapped and tortured a boy then left him dismembered on train tracks. Can't remember his name but pretty sure he was known as the Toy Box Killer or something. Absolutely disgusting. Jeffrey Dahmer and Ted Bundy are pussies compared to Pee Wee Gaskins, Fritz Harman or Peter Griffiths, that is just to name a few. John Wayne Gacy was crazy. One of his victims even escaped only to be left with him after being questioned by police, saying they were in a relationship and the victim was just drunk. He only got caught because he ran out of room to hide bodies in his basement. If you came to this thread then you're obviously interested in this type of stuff, so go check out Rob Dyke, Serial Killer Files on YouTube. BTK. He believed he was evil and just wanted to do evil things. He knew he was evil and was going to grow up to do evil things when he was a child. Those photos alone make my skin crawl. When I see that footage of his trial and hear him speak about it, it sends a chill right up my spine. He was a really messed up guy. Not a specific individual, but I once saw a documentary where they interviewed some convicted Italian mobsters. They said, the guys here all have at least 5 murders to their name, pretty much fearless. However, when the word was they'd be dealing with the Russian mafia, that's when anxiety suddenly crept in.